Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of TC Talk. My name is Therese and thanks for stopping by. So today I wanted to talk about the game Sifu and all the news, controversy, all that stuff that has come with its recent release. So it's now digitally available. I myself am waiting for the physical release because I'm about having the physical art books and everything. And when I first came across the trailer for this game, I mean, aside from the fact that, as someone who loves martial arts stuff, the martial arts genre, and the movies and, everything that comes with it, I was excited for that. But also, it has a very interesting mechanic in the sense that when the character that you play dies, they don't actually die, they get revived, and they get revived as someone older. So you end up, aging. So it's an interesting variation from what I've seen so far. But, it has become available, and with that, the game reviews have come in. And you think that most of the game reviews will be focusing, on the gameplay and the difficulty levels. Some have, but most of them, the ones I've caught, the headlines have become clickbait, have focused on another issue, and the issue, as you may or may not be surprised, is race. So I will go through these, but to summarize, people have an issue with this game because the game company Sloclap is white, or to be more precise, French. And when it comes to making a game about Chinese culture, that's a bad thing. That's like a no-no. That's like, do not go there, according to these game journalists. So, yeah, let's read on to the quote, shall we? And, I will then give my own thoughts on the whole matter. While I like Sifu's gameplay a lot, I've also been deeply unimpressed with its setting and aesthetic. The protagonist and almost all characters are Chinese, but as pointed out by features editor and the gamer, the Parisian development team at Sloclap is almost entirely white, other than composer Howie Lee, and has no connections to the cultures they've dedicated their whole game to. Now, I'm not Asian, I don't go there. But seeing white people rip other cultures as wallpaper for their creations, no matter how much research is done, is cringy. So research doesn't matter, does it? I'm here for representation, but I'm also a believer that you should write what you know. If Sloclap wanted to tell a Chinese story based in China, they should have hired more Chinese staffers with help with writing development and production. While playing through Sifu, it's hard not to think about its development team being white. It frustrates me because from a gameplay perspective, Sifu is phenomenal. But for the life of me, I don't understand why this group of people chose to tell this story. There were myriad other avenues available. Right, so okay. Yeah, okay. But here's a good question for you. I'll go into how much, research the guys at Sloclap did. But, here's an interesting take. And that's great. That Sifu already seems to be receiving a warm reception in China. The birthplace of martial arts movies from which it takes inspiration is awesome. However, the criticisms others have for gameplay and shouldn't be run off because essentially some Chinese people give it a thumbs up. Nor does the fact that only white guys made this game not being strictly correct in nowhere invalidates people's distaste over seeing white people tell a non-white story. Yep. In the West, Chinese people and Asians in general are the minority. In every recent video game developer survey I could find, Asian people account for no more than 7% of the industry. The Western video game industry is dominated by white folks telling white stories. And on the chance a developer decides to tell an Asian story, it's largely done with prevalent white studios and filled with the same down-to-death trope of family honor. That story might as well be done for white people too. You mean like Mulan? With this perspective in mind, it becomes easy to see how a Chinese person in Chicago might get more reflexively defensive about Sifu than a Chinese person in Shanghai. The latter can go about their day with the opportunity to see themselves expressing the length and breadth and depth of human emotion in every piece of media they consume. Sifu to them is just another taste morsel on the buffet of representation they serve daily, while the Chinese Chicagoan starts with a very necessary and life-affirming piece of representation. As, a Chinese Australian that lives in Sydney, can I, for myself at least, say that I do not feel this way? Can I, as a Chinese Australian, say that, not everybody thinks the same? Can I, as a Chinese Australian that lives in Sydney, say that not everybody has the same thoughts on representation and Chinese culture because not one person owns the Chinese culture? Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. So, yeah. And when it's occasionally given, it's nearly always filtered through the narrow ends of family honor and duty. Again, just like what they did with Mulan. Just like what they did with, Shang-Chi. Sifu then becomes just one more way the culture is practiced aesthetics are flowing into same one-note narrative. Well, okay, well that's your opinion, isn't it? But how much research did they do in this game? Well, let's find out, shall we? So they the Vogue interview. This Vogue article actually went to interview the developers. So, Sifu comes from Absolver developer Sloclap, a Paris-based studio, a part of Klepper Interactive family developers. For the second game, Sloclap wanted the same kind of martial arts action present in Absolver, but without all the technical headaches that accompanied Absolver's online PvP components. We all shared a love for martial arts action movies, Pierre Tano, co-founder of Sloclap and Sifu's executive director, told The Vogue. And apologies if I'm mispronouncing names at this point. Ranging all the way from old Bruce Lee movies to 80s and 90s Jackie Chan movies, Donnie Yen, and contemporary movies like The Raid, we're like, okay, let's do a game that is a love letter to the cinema which deeply love. So here's my thought on this. Maybe there should be a distinction on Chinese culture and martial arts action genre, because I know there's a deep connection, but it's not one and the same, especially with the way things are going now with Chinese culture. I will leave I will stop there. To translate the martial artistry of their beloved movies into video game form, Sloclap enlisted the help of Benjamin Calusi. Calusi is a French-born Pak Mei master who studied Pak Mei in China under the tutelage of Lao Wei-san, son of Lao Sulong, who is commonly known as the father of Fosan branch Pak Mei. According to Calusi's website and reiterated by Tano, after learning Chinese and years of study, 20, Calusi received the blessing of his Sifu, Lao Wei-san, to open a Pak Mei school in France where he met and trained under Sloclap developers long before they could create Sifu. Which now brings to Sifu's other inherent difficulty. This is a Chinese story told exclusively by white men, so they go on that track, as you can imagine. So yeah, you can pretty much see what the culture of this. For me, this feels like this is, Ghost of Tsushima all over again. So if you want privy to the controversy that was Ghost of Tsushima, well, this was a game which was developed in the United States. Sucker Punch, I think, is the game company. So they decided to create a game which was all about the samurai during a time which is an interesting time period when Japan was attempted to be invaded by Mongols. So as you can imagine, there was a lot of controversy about this too for similar reasons, but the Japanese response was generally positive. They actually gave ambassadorship to some of the game developers or some of the creative team on Iki Island. So take that as you will. I just feel like this is very reminiscent. And then I guess this controversy has been going a while, because then they had this they gave the creative kit, and honestly, if I got that crit, I would have been like, oh shit, my pants. I would have crapped my pants. I would have said, holy shit, this is so cool. But that's just me. And you have all these coins, and you have these beads, and Ryan Calligraphy says, I'm like, yeah, I would have loved this, personally speaking. So where are we going from this? So, well, let me just leave with one more quote. Our intention is to make something that is as authentic and respectful of Chinese kung fu culture as possible. Although we've got one concept artist on the team who's of Chinese culture and descent, so they do have some people. Who was that first layer how to get certain text and details of environment right, but that was not enough for us. We wanted to go deeper. To do that, Sloclap engaged others of Asian descent, including Anu Liu of Kulin Knights, a video game investment fund, and Richie Zhu of Kepler Interactive, Sloclap's publishing partner. Throughout the entire development, Sifu, we have constantly played builds and provided feedback through told the work. So, what else could they do? Both consulted on a number of issues related to gameplay and cultural elements, like correcting the order of characters on the coin talisman that holds your resurrection power. For the game's pending Chinese localization, they helped select the Chinese voice actors and sat in on recording sessions to ensure the dialogue was representative of how Chinese people speak to each other. Liu and Zhu were also responsible for connecting Sloclap and consultants in China who provided feedback on everything down to the smallest detail. There's an anecdote both Tano and Liu shared about washing machines in the background of the game's first level being swapped from front to top loading, since this latter is the kind most Chinese would be familiar with. When asked about their feelings about Sifu, both were excited by the prospect of having proper Kung Fu games that has been taken as culturally, seriously, and sensitively as Sifu has been. I was also very surprised by this game because there hasn't been any real authentic Kung Fu games since Sleeping Dogs, Sifu said. Guys, viewers, for my 47 subscribers, let me know what if there was any of the same energy controversy when Sleeping Dogs came out. Let me know because I'm very, very curious on that front. From what Zhu told The Verge, Chinese netizens seem similarly excited about Sifu. I think a lot of people actually feel very proud of seeing Chinese Kung Fu culture come from a French studio putting in so much effort into making this game, Sifu said. Alright, so you can pretty much get the gist of what the game, what the reception has been. I guess as days go by, we will see more. From my perspective, I might have said some of how I feel. When it comes to, stuff like praying something and representation of other cultures, on some level, I get it. I get why people might see the issue, might want consultancy. My thoughts are, if the person that's making cares about something enough, if they do love something enough as much as they say they do, the results will show. The results will show. And as some of the commentary on Twitter among other social media have said, but committee is very much a double-edged sword because I can definitely see it not ending well. Because, like I said before, no one person is arbiter of their culture. No one person can represent thousands of years of culture or millions of people. That's just not how it works. And I guess for me, if you're just going to, be so restrictive, which is the feeling that I'm getting, on what people can and can't create in terms of art, there's just going to be less art out there. And I, for one, personally, because, I can only speak for myself, want more of the martial arts genre out there. And if the last thing that has been since this game was Sleeping Dogs, it has been a while. So I guess, if nothing else, it's definitely been interesting for me because I myself recently became more involved with the Chinese Youth League, and this is an organization that was established in Sydney years ago as part of a means for Chinese people to integrate into Australian culture and life. And when I talk to these members, people that are much older than me, people in the 70s, 80s even, when they talk about anything that comes close to this, it's always under the premise of cultural exchange, which makes the whole premise of the whole concept of cultural appropriation for me even more ironic, because they want to share their culture. They want more people to know about Chinese culture, as do I. And I guess for me, maybe there is I definitely do, and people have said this, and I do believe that there is a generational thing. So first generations, and I'm talking about people that just migrated from other countries. Do you think they would care about this? If there is any that want to talk about this, I would love to know, because I definitely think that most of the people that have their grievances are probably second or third generation. That's the impression that I'm getting. But let me know if if you see different, because I'm actually very curious about this. But yeah, so it's like, I think I just want, the martial arts genre to be, to more people to know about it, because it's a genre that I love so much. It's something that I've been since my childhood. But you know what? funny enough, I guess out of all of this, the only result that this has gotten is that I've become, more interested in this game, and I've decided that I'm actually going to buy it. So there. So I guess I will, once, the physical copy comes in and is available at least in Australia, I'll give my thoughts and reviews on that. Maybe, ironically enough, I will also give my thoughts on Ghost of Tsushima and Sleeping Dogs, because I actually do have a copy of those games too. So yeah, I guess that's my thoughts on that is my thoughts. Let me know what you think. Let me know what for those that have played Sifu, let me know what your thoughts are on the gameplay itself, how you think it does in terms of showcasing the Chinese culture, I guess more importantly, the Chinese martial arts genre. And I will see you then. Until next time.